Hello everybody, it's Nancy News here, and today we've got a lot of breaking dates today. And the first news we'll be talking about today is coming from Russia, where we've just gotten some news today that Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, is going to be visiting Moscow for a meeting with the Russian President Vladimir Putin this week. So Witkoff is heading to Moscow this week. The White House says that he'll be working to urge Russia to sign a ceasefire deal, which we'll be talking about the ceasefire deal in just a second. But Witkoff is still officially Trump's Middle East envoy, but he's being sent to Russia to discuss a ceasefire with Vladimir Putin. So as I said, the US delegation will be meeting Vladimir Putin himself in Moscow, according to the BBC and the White House. And we've also got news that Donald Trump will be talking with Vladimir Putin on Friday in a phone conversation about a ceasefire agreement in Ukraine. So very big news. And according to the Kremlin pool journalist Simonov, it will be more than just a phone call. So very big news. On the topic of a ceasefire agreement, we've got on news today that the United States and Ukrainian delegations have met again. Has just met in the Saudi Arabian capital city of Jeddah. So Ukraine is now ready to accept an immediate 30-day ceasefire proposed by the United States, and Washington has just lifted the pause on flow of weapons and intel to Ukraine statements after Saudi Arabian talks. So let's just go through it step by step. So today in the Saudi capital city, under the hospitality of the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, the United States and Ukraine took important steps towards restoring a durable peace for Ukraine. So representatives of both nations praised the bravery of Ukrainian people in defense of their nation and agreed that now is the time to begin a process towards lasting peace. The Ukrainian delegation reiterated that the Ukrainian people's strong gratitude to President Trump, the US Congress, and the people of the United States for making possible meaningful progress towards peace. Ukraine expressed readiness to accept the US proposal to enact an immediate interim 30-day ceasefire, which can be extended by mutual agreement of the parties and which is subject to acceptance and concurrent implementations by the Russian Federation. Both delegations agreed to name their negotiating teams and immediately begin negotiations towards an enduring peace that provides for Ukraine's long-term security. The United States is also committed to discussing these specific proposals with representatives from Russia. The Ukrainian delegation reiterated that European partners shall be involved in the peace process. And lastly, both countries, Presidents Zelensky and Donald Trump, agreed to conclude as soon as possible a comprehensive agreement for developing Ukraine's critical mineral resources and to expand Ukraine's economy and guarantees for Ukraine's long-term prosperity and security. The United States will immediately lift the pause on intelligence sharing and resume security assistance to Ukraine. So this is all according to the White House. So let's just go over it very simply for dot point. So let's discuss the key outcomes of the Ukrainian and the American talks in Saudi Arabia. So dot point by dot point. So Ukraine backed the US proposal for a 30-day ceasefire in the conflict zone. The US agreed to resume intelligence sharing and the delivery of military aid to Ukraine. The US and Ukraine agreed to work out an agreement for the development of Ukrainian mineral resources to expand Ukraine's economy and to offset the cost of America's assistance. The US and Ukraine have agreed to name their negotiating teams and begin negotiations towards an enduring peace, and Ukraine insisted on the inclusion of European partners into the peace process. So that is the key statements. That is everything that happened in the American and Ukrainian meeting in Saudi Arabia in the Saudi capital city Riyadh. So very big news. So Putin has given his thoughts on the ceasefire proposal, the 30-day ceasefire proposal. So Putin stated once again that Russia doesn't want a short-term ceasefire and talks must aim for long-term peace, not a pause that lets other sides regroup and rearm just to drag the war on. So the Russian press said this in January the 2025 while congratulating Trump on his re-election. So Putin he's always said that he's very opposed for a short-term ceasefire. As he said, this ceasefire could be used for Ukrainian armed forces to regroup and entrench their positions. And if the ceasefire doesn't work, then the Russian Federation will have a much tougher time pushing Ukrainian troops back. So, very big news. And if you remember in 2024, under the Joe Biden administration, Putin stated that in order for a ceasefire or a peace agreement in Ukraine, Ukraine must agree to remove all of its forces from the Zaporozhian, Donetsk, and the Kherson oblasts. So, Putin, if you remember in 2024, stated that the Ukrainian forces must withdraw from the new Russian regions of Zaporozhia, Kherson, and Donetsk, and for Ukraine to vow to stay out of NATO. So very big news, and we'll have to wait until more further information comes out about this ceasefire deal. And according to the Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov, he stated that there is no rush for obviously a ceasefire deal in Ukraine, so we don't have to rush it. We should carefully think about this ceasefire deal instead of just going straight into it. This is according to the Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov. He also stated that we are carefully studying statements following the US and Ukrainian talks in Saudi Arabia. So, big news. And a lot of foreign nations like the United Kingdom, France, Germany, a lot of NATO nations are now warmly thanking the United States for its meeting with Ukraine, and obviously continuing military and intelligence support for Ukraine. So the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer warmly welcomed US agreement and congratulated Donald Trump and Zelensky for a remarkable breakthrough. He stated that Russia now must agree to the ceasefire, and the UK will convene leaders Saturday to discuss the next steps, and now the ball is in Russia's court. So a lot of nations leaders like Germany, France, the United Kingdom, Poland, Sweden, Finland have now stated that the ball is in Russia's court. So we'll see what Russia does with the ball. And the next things we'll be discussing today, we won't go straight into Ukraine right now. We're going to be discussing about Putin's meeting in the Kursk region. So Putin has just visited the Kursk region, which has obviously suffered from attacks by Ukrainian forces. He dressed in a military uniform for the first time in the obviously the war in Ukraine. So Putin rocked up to this military forum with a military and camouflage uniform. Again, this is the first time he's ever done this in the Ukrainian conflict. So let's just go over the key statements that were talked about in this Russian forum meeting about the Kursk region. So the key Russian statements is that Russian troops have recaptured over 1,100 square kilometers in the Kursk border area. Gerasimov reported that the Ukrainian forces have lost more and over 67,000 soldiers in the Kursk border region. 86% of the region previously occupied by Ukrainian forces have now been recaptured in the Kursk incursion into Russia. Ukrainian forces have also lost more than 7,000 pieces of equipment during their incursion into Russia. Ukrainian forces in the Kursk region are surrounded, isolated, and being destroyed, Gerasimov reported to Putin. And according to the chief of the general staff, Russian troops are continuing to recapture the Russian region with the goal of reaching the state's border in the shortest possible time. So it doesn't seem that they didn't really say that Russia would continue its offensive into the Sumy region. So obviously it's an amount of time that the Ukrainians will be pushed out of Russia now, and the question is Russia going to continue its offensive while the Ukrainians are obviously on the back foot here, on the ropes? So we've got some reports that Russia might be continuing its offensive to maybe Sumy, but we haven't gotten any really hardcore evidence about that. But According to the Ukrainian side and this Kursk offensive by the Russian Federation, the Ukrainians are simply just going back to a more advantageous defense positions, which is a very nice way to say that you're retreating. So, since the beginning of the Kursk operation from August the 6th, 2024 to present day, the Ukrainian forces are stating that the Russian troops have lost more than 54,000 people, and 22,000 of these 54 people are obviously they can't be retreatable. They're seriously wounded, and that the Ukrainians have taken more than 1,000 Russian prisoners. So very interesting news. And according to Putin, the Ukrainian soldiers who have committed massacres on Russian territory will be treated as terrorists. So again, very big news. And let's just touch upon the Kursk offensive really quickly. As you can see, the Ukrainian forces have heavily been pushed back in the Kursk offensive here. And we've just gotten reports today that the Russian city of Sudzha has just been recaptured reclaimed by Russian forces. So very big news. So the Ukrainians are officially now on the back foot in the Sudzha region, in the Kursk region, and it's a matter of time, to be honest. Completely neutral here. It's a matter of time now that obviously the Ukrainian forces are going to be pushed all the way back to the state border. And the last point in this Sudzha direction is that Wikipedia has just declared Russian victory in Kursk. So you can see here in the bottom left corner, the Wikipedia has officially made the Ukrainian offensive in the Kursk region results Russian victory. So that's just the last point I want to add on that conversation there. The next news we've got today is coming from Ukraine. We've got news that Portugal will be delivering 8 SA-300L Puma helicopters to Ukraine. So we've got news that Portugal has already just delivered these 8 helicopters. So again, I'll repeat, Portugal has delivered 8 SA-300L Puma helicopters to Ukraine. We've also got news today that France will provide Ukraine with military aid worth 195 million euros, financed by the interest of frozen Russian assets. So the French Armed Forces Minister Sébastien Lecornu announced that Ukraine will receive 155mm artillery shells, AASM aerial bombs compatible with the recently delivered Mirage 2000 fighter jets, AMX-10 RCs, light tanks, and the VAB armoured personnel carriers. France has also agreed to accelerate the delivery of previously used armoured vehicles. And the next news we're going to be talking about today is coming from Romania, where we've just got news today that Romania's top court upholds a decision to ban presidential frontrunner Călin Georgescu from the general elections. So Romania's top court has just banned the potential frontrunner Călin Georgescu, who won the previous round, the previous first round of the elections in Romania. So according to Romanian MP George Simon, he stated that they rejected the candidacy of Mr. Georgescu without any reason. I just met with Mr. Georgescu. We have made the plan to rejoin democracy, to get free elections. So Georgescu has, at this current time of recording, he's still been banned from becoming a candidate of the Romanian presidential elections. And if you remember, a couple of months ago, he actually won the first round of elections in Romania, but his victory was taken away from him for of alleged Russian interference in the elections. But I'll keep you updated on that. And the next news we've got today is coming from Estonia. So we've got news today that Estonia has just signed a major arms delivery with Turkey. So Estonia is bolstering its defense with new Turkish-made armored vehicles. The deal includes 230 Turkish-made armored vehicles for 200 million euros. So Estonia has just sent Turkey 200 million euros for Turkey to produce 230 Turkish-made armoured vehicles for Estonia's defence. So these vehicles are the Nurul Makia armoured vehicles and the Oktika armor. So if you can see here in the bottom left corner, these are the vehicles we are talking about. So Estonia is set to receive 230 of these armored vehicles. And the next news we've got today is coming from Denmark, but not mainland Denmark, but coming from its overseas territory of Greenland. So we've just got news today that Greenland has gone through a parliamentary election through Greenland, where Jens Frederik Nelson has just won the parliamentary elections in Greenland. So the Democrats won the parliamentary elections in Greenland and said that the island is not for sale. So the Demokratia, regarded as the sister party of the Liberal Alliance in Greenland, strives for policies that include lowering taxes, cutting red tape, and reducing the size of public sectors. So the Democrat Party in Greenland believes that easing the financial burdens on entrepreneurs and business owners should make launching and operating a business more affordable. Importantly, these tax reductions are designed to especially favour low and middle income citizens. And like nearly and every party in Greenland except one, the Democrat Party sees achieving independence and as essential. The party is now ready to engage in serious negotiations with Denmark on a step-by-step roadmap for independence. So the Democrat Party has just secured 4 years in power in Greenland, where they've just stated that they see themselves becoming independent in the next 4 years. So in the next 4 years, we can see Greenland potentially becoming its own independent country, and the leader of the Democrat Party, which just won, stated that the island is not for sale to the United States. We've also got news today coming from Germany that the German arms manufacturer of Rheinmetall stocks have just surged 660% in 3 years. So since the war in Ukraine started, the Rheinmetall military manufacturer in Germany, its stocks have raised and surged over 660% in 3 years. We've also got news that Germany's Volkswagen car company is now considering manufacturing equipment for the German army as Europe accelerates its rearmament. So with Germany's car export down 50% from the pre-pandemic levels, automakers have spare capacity, and obviously Volkswagen has just announced that it is now considering manufacturing equipment for the German army. And the next news we've got today is coming from the United Kingdom. So we've got news today that the Royal Air Force of the United Kingdom has just stated that it will now be recruiting previously unfit candidates for pilots positions due to a severe staffing shortage. So the British Army is now hiring unfit candidates for the British Air Force due to huge and severe staffing shortages. So big news. And the next news we've got from the United Kingdom today is coming from the North Sea near the coast of England, near the port city of Hull. So we've got news today that a major maritime disaster has happened off the coast of the Kingdom of England after a collision between a cargo ship and an oil tanker took place, and it resulted in a huge fire that could be seen from miles away. So an American loaded tanker, the Stena Immaculate, was hit at anchor point by a Portuguese flag container ship, the Ceasefire. So the Stena Immaculate, the American ship, it was and is still on fire, I'm pretty sure, and the crew abandoned the ship, and it sounds like all Americans are in lifeboats and were accounted for, and the Ceasefire, the Portuguese ship, one person is missing and is presumed dead. So we've got news that British media and Sky News reported that the captain and most of the crew of the Portuguese flagged ship, the Ceasefire, which collided with the United States flag Stena Immaculate oil tanker 2 days ago, are Russian nationalists. So British authorities have just arrested the Russian captain of the Ceasefire ship on suspicion of manslaughter. So the Stena Immaculate was transporting jet fuel for the US Department of Defense when it was crashed into by the Sulong cargo ship, and it has appeared to have made no efforts to slow down prior to the ramming. And we've actually gotten some footage, the first footage of the moment the cargo ship actually collided with the tanker in the North Sea. So this was taken from a nearby ship on the this was taken by a nearby ship on a camera. So very big news. The next news we've gotten today is coming from Turkey, where we've got news that the Turkish President Erdogan has just welcomed the Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk with an official ceremony and assisted him up the stairs by holding his arm, as Donald Tusk, the Prime Minister of Poland, wore an adjustable knee brace on his left leg. So we haven't gotten the full meetings of this meeting in Turkey yet, but we've got news that the two leaders have met in Turkey, where they'll be discussing very interesting topics. And again, I'll keep you updated on that, because at the current time of recording, they have just met right now. So very big news. And the next breaking news today is coming from Syria. So we've just got news today that an agreement has just been signed to integrate the Syrian Democratic Forces into the institutions of the Syrian Arab Republic, reaffirming Syria's territorial unity and rejecting division. So the possibility of an autonomous region has just been eliminated. So the Kurdish Syrian Democratic Forces have just agreed to integrate in the Syrian Arab Republic. So the Syrian presidency stated that the agreement with the Syrian Democratic Forces stipulates support for the Syrian state in its fight against the remnant of Assad and all threats to its security. So the agreement guarantees the return of all displaced Syrians to their towns and villages, ensuring their protection by the Syrian state. So let's just go over the details of the Syrian and the SDF agreement. So number one agreement is assuring all Syrians have the right to representation and political participation based on merit, regardless on religious or ethnic background, recognizing the Kurdish community as an integral part of Syria and guaranteeing its constitutional rights, a ceasefire across all Syrian territories, integrating all civil and military institutions in the northern Syria under the state administration, including border crossings, airports, and oil and gas fields, and ensuring the return of displaced Syrians to their hometowns with state protection, supporting Syria in combating Assad's remnant Assad forces that threat security and unity, rejecting calls for division, hate speech, and attempts to incite discord. Implementations to committees will work to enforce the agreement by the end of the year. So we practically got news today that the Kurdish Northern Eastern forces here, this red part here, has just agreed to have a ceasefire with the new officials in Damascus, and even to perhaps integrate into the Syrian Arab government. So we can now officially turn this into a lighter green color. So it's not officially in Syria yet, but it will be turning into it very soon. So Syria has nearly completely been united, and the last part of the country is now still under Israeli occupation. So that is the last thing that Syria is going to be working on. And the next news we've got today is coming from the Yemeni Houthis in northern Yemen. So we've just got news today that the Houthis military in Yemen has just announced the resumption of attacks on Israel and Israeli vessels in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. So this comes as 4 days ago the leader of the Yemen's Houthi military, Abdul, threatened and gave an ultimatum to Israel to resume attacks on ships and vessels passing the Red Sea if humanitarian aid isn't delivered to Gaza within 4 days, and obviously it hasn't. And the next news we've got today is coming from Iran. So we've just got news today that Iran intends to withdraw from the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty if the US imposes sanctions on Iran. So the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, commonly known as the Non-Proliferation Treaty, or NPT in short, is an international treaty whose objective is to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons and nuclear weapons technology, to promote cooperation in the peaceful use of nuclear energy, and to further the goal of achieving nuclear disarmament and general and complete. So Iran intends to withdraw from the Nuclear Proliferation Treaty if the US imposes sanctions on it. So very big news. Iran's president has stated and tells Trump that Iran won't negotiate under threat. The Iranian president stated that it is unacceptable for us, the US, to give orders and make threats. I won't even negotiate with you, Donald Trump. Do whatever the hell you want, the state media quoted the president of Iran. So, we've also just got news today that the deputy foreign ministers of Russia, China, and Iran will meet in Beijing on March the 14th to discuss the Iranian nuclear crisis and issue, the Chinese foreign ministry reported. We've also got, while on the news of Russia, China, and Iran, we've just got news today that Iran, Russia, and China have just conducted a joint military training exercise in the port of Shabaha. So I'll just put that here. So it's in the Gulf of Oman. So we've got news today that Russia, China, and Iran are conducting naval military training exercises in the Gulf of Oman. So you can see these videos here. We can see Chinese, Russian, Iranian navies conducting military exercises in the Gulf of Oman, securing even closer military connections between the three countries. And the next news today is coming from Pakistan. So we've just got news today that we've gotten some very big news of a hijacking in Pakistan. So we've got news today that the Balochistan Liberation Army, or the BLA rebel group, has just hijacked an entire train from the Jaffa Express in Pakistan's Balochistan province, and has taken hundreds of passengers hostages. So at least 450 people are now under hostage by the Balochistan Liberation Army, or the BLA. So the Balochistan Army Group is a rebel group that operates in Pakistan's region near Afghanistan. So these people are rebel groups in Pakistan, and they have taken a whole train hostage and hijacked a train and taken 450 passengers as hostage. So let's just go over the latest updates of this disaster that is happening in this exact bridge here. So the Jaffa Express, the train company, was carrying around 450 passengers, but it was ambushed by the Baloch Liberation Army, or the BLA in short, in the Bulan district on Tuesday. The militants blew up the track, causing the train to derail inside the tunnel. So the rebel group blew up one of the train tracks here and obviously caused the train to derail. The BLA is demanding the release of imprisoned members in exchange for the hostages. They threatened to execute all hostages in the case of military intervention. At least 20 people were killed, including the train driver and several security personnel, with the BLA warning that they will execute 10 more hostages if their demands are not met. The BLA claims to hold 214 hostages, primarily security personnel. The Pakistani forces claim that they have rescued around 155 passengers, mostly women and children, but the rebels insist that these rescues were actually hostages released by the BLA rebel group itself. So we've gotten some really concerning news that the Jaffa Express has hijacked. This hijack situation has been going on for at least 33 hours, and the BLA, the rebel group, has claimed that they have killed already 100 Pakistani soldiers. So no statement has been made right now from the Pakistani army. So there's a huge conflict happening right now in this bridge, where rebel groups have taken hostage of a whole train, taken hostages of a lot of people, 240, and the Pakistani army is now actively trying to rescue these people. But according to the rebel group, they have already killed 100 Pakistani soldiers trying to rescue the hostages. And these hostages are obviously demanding imprisoned rebels of its rebel group to be released for the exchange of the hostages. So very big news. We've also gotten some news today coming from America, where we've got news that the US President Donald Trump has just raised tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminium to 50%. So this comes a few days after China imposed 100% tariffs on select Canadian imports. So the US President has just raised tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminium to 50%. And because of this, Ontario, so Canada, Canada is Canada's main province here. Ontario has decided to slap a 25% surcharge on electricity exports to the United States, affecting 1.5 million Americans. So according to the Premier on Ontario, it will cost the US citizen $400,000 per day. So Doug Ford, the Premier of Ontario, stated that I will not hesitate to shut down the electricity off completely. So there's a huge trade war now going on between America and America and Canada that keeps getting more heated. We've also got news today that Justin Trudeau is leaving his post as Prime Minister of Canada and taking his chair with him. So journalists actually captured the former Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, carrying his chair out of the House of Commons on Parliament Hill and playfully sticking his tongue out at the camera. The moment quickly went viral and sparking both amusement and criticism online. So after 9 years of Justin Trudeau's leadership, Canada is preparing for a change. Mark Carney will take over as Prime Minister, facing challenges on defending the country's interests against the United States, while holding his ground against the rising Conservative Party in Canada. So Mark Carney, the new Prime Minister of Canada, will be officially replacing Justin Trudeau as the Prime Minister of Canada on Friday. The Canadian media says that March the 14th, swearing in the ceremony is planned for him to become Prime Minister. And the next news we've got today is that SpaceX has delayed a rescue mission for the return of the 2 astronauts stranded on the International Space Station. So the delay was due to a last-minute technical issue with the rocket's launch pad. So it was not immediately clear when the next launch opportunity would be, but SpaceX and NASA could try again in the coming days. And that's all the news I have for you today. I am Non-C News. I'll try and provide you news that medias around the world do not show you. I do these videos hopefully daily, so consider subscribing and liking. And if you want to support me personally, please consider donating in the links description below. You can either become a member of the Non-C News YouTube channel that gives you perks, or you could donate in the link in the description below through the PayPal link. So either way, I thank you very much. Again, thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.